Hello everyone, and welcome to the next video on GoAWrestling. This one is the one out of the channel since we started this new channel that I've been looking forward to the most. Because we are going to be doing our predictions for AEW All In. It's a big show with the highest paid attendance in wrestling history. And Callum, you are going to be in the fucking crowd for it, you lucky son of a bitch.
Yeah, I'm going. I'm going because I'm from London, so I will go to the show.
Yeah, you thought WCPW shows were exciting? You thought that was an atmosphere? Just wait till you get to Wembley Stadium where 81,000 people are in there.
It's funny because this past week is when I've been getting a bunch of emails like, "Oh, get ready! All your tickets now available." I've got it now on my phone.
Yeah.
The ticket itself. So that's and ooh, it's gonna be a long night.
I wish
The
they
doors open at 3:30, I think, and then pre-show starts at 5.
Yeah, I wish it would in the emails they'd send you a voice note memo from Tony Khan telling you how excited he is for the show.
That's quite funny because I literally got something in the mail, not wrestling related, but I got something from like a football club that I go to every week with my dad, because we're both season ticket holders, which basically means we've paid to go to every home game of that team.
Yeah,
and we got like a package of like a scarf and a note saying thank you for your support and stuff. So it'll be something like that.
Yeah. Yep. I'm sure Tony Khan has that for Fulham Football Club, although he wouldn't need it anyway, as he's got like $7 billion. Speaking of $7 billion, shall we talk about the biggest achievement of his life, it seems, this show that he's about to do. 5 years after the original All In, when Dave Meltzer said that no independent company could run a building with 10,000, and then Cody and the Young Bucks said, your challenge is accepted. And they blew that out the water so massively that Tony Khan decided to get his dad's inheritance money and fucking pay to have a new wrestling promotion created, which now 5 years later is now going to do the biggest wrestling show of all time in terms of attendance. It's fucking insane. I still can't believe it. I still can't believe that AEW has done this.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
And not only is it going to be over 80,000, it's going to be over 80,000 Brits.
Yeah, fucking crazy.
Not only is it over 80,000 Brits, but it's over 80,000 Brits who watch All Elite Wrestling, which is like the most hardcore of fans. It's ridiculous. I can't believe it. Oh my god.
Oh boy.
Where do we even start with this? I mean, the one thing I will say is the two predictions we've done before, we did Money in the Bank and we did SummerSlam for WWE. And whilst we didn't get all the predictions right, I feel like when I was writing down the choices for each match, I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to choose for most of them. But with this card, I was like, shit, there could be so many different possibilities for this. Because it's a really unique scenario for some of these matches where it really could go either way. And I think that's a testament to how well they've built. This is actually something I think the AEW do quite well with their pay-per-views, is that they often have matches where either result could make sense. And that is usually what you kind of want. Obviously, there's exceptions. Like, Full Gear 2021, everyone knew Hangman was going to beat Kenny. That's like an example where it was just absolutely predictable. But for a lot of the time, you look at some of these pay-per-views before they happen, you're like, oh, this person could win or this person could win. And it's a toss-up, which makes it interesting. And it might make it a really interesting competition for predictions as we do them. Because I feel like out of the ones so far, this is the one that might be the most likely for us to have the most different choices. Because in the last two, in the Money in the Bank one, we had every match was the same. And we decided depending on who was pinned in the main event. And then SummerSlam, the only difference was the Cody Brock match. Also, this one has 9 announced matches, including the 0 hour. I'm aware that Wembley has a curfew of like 11 p.m. or something.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm if I've got this correct, I believe that means the 0 hour starts at 5, the show starts at 6, and it has to end around 10 to 10:30.
Yeah.
Your time.
So basically, you have they've got 4.5 hours to do 8 matches on the main card.
And they have however much time after that to get everyone out of the building.
Yeah.
Very interesting. They're not going to do a 2-hour ROH TV taping after the show like they did for Collision today. Apparently that taping was like it finished like after midnight in Lexington, Kentucky. That's crazy. Oh, yeah. But the only reason why they had to do that is because they're taping Dynamite and Collision next Wednesday. Because obviously they can't do Collision in the UK, because why would anyone want to go see that? So yeah, we've only got one 0 hour match announced. Do you think they'll add any more? Some people think they should add battle royals just to get people on the show.
I think there'll be 2 more matches announced for the whole card.
I would like to see them add like a casino battle royal or something. What I would like if I was booking it, I'd like to see them book a match on the 0 hour that gets them a match on the All Out card the next week. I think that could be really cool. Yeah, because the thing is, I imagine they'll probably do a TBS championship match on the 0 hour. Because Statlander is advertised on the poster. So you'd think
that'd be weird if she wasn't on the card.
You'd think that she has a match. So I would imagine she probably will end up having a match on...
I definitely think there will be at least one more match announced on Dynamite.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would imagine probably Collision because the TBS title feuds have all been happening on Collision
I would probably
recently.
say they wouldn't announce stuff on taped shows. Well, I guess it would depend on how we did it, but it would make more sense to do it on Dynamite, which is the live show this week, and not Collision, which isn't live.
Yeah. You know what's really weird is they did next week's Rampage before Collision. This week. It's weird. Really strange. They've had to do that. Very, very bizarre. But anyway, I'm sure we'll probably get a TBS title match on the 0 hour, and then maybe if they did like a casino battle royal for the men, and the winner of that gets a match, like a title shot at All Out for something. Just an idea. I think before we get into the actual predictions, we should probably address the 3 unfortunate names that won't be wrestling on the show, that should have been on the show, and can't be because of injury, and that's Bryan Danielson, Jamie Hayter, and the Bastard Pac.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. It sucks because the rumor was...
excited to see Hayter as well, and Danielson.
Well, the rumor was it was originally going to be the Danielson-Kenny Omega rematch, which would have been awesome. And, Jamie Hayter getting her belt back, and Pac doing anything. I think especially for Jamie Hayter, that sucks for her, really, because I think having her on that show would have been really special, and I think she would have gotten a massive, massive ovation from that.
Yeah, definitely.
The UK crowd. I mean, she's already over in the US, let alone her home.
Oh, she would have. The roof would have blown off if she was on the show.
Yeah. They would have blown off to the Mikey Rockers Hater Rave. I'm sure AEW will come back to the UK at some point in the future, and she can have her big moment there.
Yeah, it'd be weird if they didn't.
Yeah, so actually, another thing I'm really interested in is what is the stage going to look like in that massive stadium? I sort of have a concept in my head that it's probably fantasy booking, but you remember how they used to have the tunnels for Dynamite? My idea of this show would be massive tunnels, like absolutely gargantuan WrestleMania-sized tunnels. I don't know if that's possible. But yeah, it's probably going to be a banger of a show just for the crowd alone, let alone the fact that it's AEW.
Oh yeah, it's going to be bloody crazy.
Yeah, their reputation for in-ring stuff is great anyway, and for storytelling, but the fact that it's going to be this crowd, this Wembley Stadium crowd, it's going to be like I really hope that this actually feels like it's got the same thing that you get when you watch WrestleMania. I'm sure it will. I mean, it's obviously going to be a different kind of product because it's not WWE, so it's an alternative product. But at least for like the big fight feel, the grand presentation, I would really like that. I'm sure Tony can afford that if he wanted it. Just don't have as much product placement. That's all I ask. Don't have too much product placement, please. I mean, a bit of DraftKings and a bit of, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is bearable, but don't have fucking Bud Light and C4 flashed into my eyes every 10 seconds. Yeah, anything you want to say about your anticipation for the show before we get into the predictions?
I'm just really fucking excited to go to the show and watch a lot of really good wrestling in front of 80,000 bloody people in Wembley Stadium. That's fucking crazy. Honestly, it's insane.
Oh,
It's insane to think about. It won't feel real until I'm probably in the actual stadium.
That's the kind of crowd you'd pull for a big football match, and even then, it's wrestling, so the actual crowd size.
Oh, I mean,
bigger.
like in terms of football for Wembley, it's always sold out. Like for the FA Cup final, which is the cup competition, the biggest cup competition in the country. Yeah, it's always sold out. That final is always sold out, and it's always loud, and it's always packed. So to be there for a wrestling show is going to be very, very strange.
But on top of that, you also got to remember a football field is massive, and you can't fit all the people on the field. Whereas a wrestling, the floor is packed with people, so it's going to be an even
the floor
tighter.
is going to be like. I imagine the set will be similar to how they do a lot of the boxing in Wembley, because they've obviously would have done that many times, so it'll be similar to that.
Yeah,
I'd imagine, with how they set the things up. But I'm interested in what the stage will look like for the show and how it's sort of presented.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've heard one of the main reasons WWE hasn't brought big shows to the UK before is because of how difficult it is to fly the sets over, especially like the WrestleMania size sets, and how complicated that is.
Yeah,
but I'm sure there's a way to do it.
There's definitely ways to do it, yeah.
If the stage is fragmented into pieces and then it's built over the course of a week, I'm sure it's possible. It's also likely that they may even opt to not have a big stage. Just have the people be the stage itself, I mean, Tony Khan, obviously, he owns Fulham Football Club, right? He understands what the culture of football stadiums are like in the UK, so he fully gets it.
Yeah.
So I imagine...
He definitely would, yeah.
I imagine he's going to try and lean into that as much as possible.
Yeah, I imagine so. Like, he'll have a lot of the, like... I imagine there's going to be a lot of, like, footballers that are going to be there, or a lot of British celebrities. People, like Jeff Jarrett said, like, in his interview with Luke Owen, like, a lot of people around the world are going to go to this show. It's, like, it's crazy.
Are we going to see Captain Cringe, Puppy Dog on cocaine, cut a promo about how many people there are in the building? Oh my god, guys!
If there's anything on
the biggest show in wrestling,
he could open the biggest. I'd say the most likely thing, if we were to get that, is he would open the show before, like after the beginning of the show happens. He's already in the ring, something like that, and he's like, "Guys, thank you so much for coming," and like something like that, some sort of big speech like that.
It wouldn't surprise me if he does what Vince did at WrestleMania 3, where he was in the middle of the ring.
Welcome to All In!
Yeah.
That's very possible, actually.
Guys, there's going to be so many great matches. Now, wondering what he's going to do about the attendance. Is he going to announce the ticket sale, or is he going to do the WWE kayfabe thing? Maybe he could do both. Imagine if he did. He's like, we have the highest ticket sales of all time, which is this, 80,000 something. And he's like, but, wink, wink, if we include all of the other people in the building, it's this much. And it's, I think it was Pete Quinnell said they should just make that number one higher than WrestleMania 32's number, just to be funny. I'm looking forward to it, and I am sure WWE are spewing right now that their record has been broken by this. What was it that Triple H called it in 2019? This pissant t-shirt company.
I mean, they will probably sell a lot of t-shirts at the show.
Oh yeah, I just find it so funny that there's still people online that are making up excuses. They're like, oh, well, they couldn't sell that many in the US. Doesn't count. The amount of times they've had to move the goalposts about AEW, and that just every time they do something bigger, they're just like, well, they didn't do this. And they're like, oh, well, WrestleMania 40's already sold 90,000. It's like, mate, that's a 2-night show. It's not the same. Anyway, shall we get on to the predictions?
Yes, we shall.
So, I think we should start with what seems to be the most hyped, or possibly, I don't even know at this point, but this might be the most hyped 0-hour match that AEW's ever done. Because it's got the main event of the pay-per-view in it. I mean, from a purely technical wrestling standpoint, I would actually say it's probably the Rampage one that was Bryan Danielson versus Minoru Suzuki in 2021. But that was on YouTube, like, for free before a TV special. Like, it's not like a pay-per-view 0-hour. But this match is one that I don't think anyone could have predicted we were going to get. This was something that is so outside the box compared to what I thought we were ever going to get. I don't think in a million years I could have ever predicted that this match was going to be on the 0-hour. This specific match.
Yeah, practically opening the show. Not officially, but yeah.
Yeah. So we have the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship match with Aussie Open, which is Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher, versus the AEW World Champion MJF and his opponent in the main event, Adam Cole, as a tag team on the 0-hour. It's really strange on paper, but if you've been watching Dynamite for the last, and even Collision as well, technically, for the last like few months, it's like, actually, this is a really interesting idea. The most peculiar thing going into this pay-per-view for me about this match and the match that comes later is the role that the Kingdom will play in this pay-per-view. That being the butthurt, jealous ex-Roderick Strong with his neck brace, crying into the shoulders of Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. Which, again, two guys I would have not expected to be involved in the main event storyline of the biggest show ever. It's so weird. But I think that's just the kind of booker that Tony Khan is. He does these things with people you just would never expect to be in certain programs. Like it's just the kind of thing that you'd never think Vince would do. But yeah, so we got this match on the 0-hour, and I feel like there are storyline reasons why it could go either way. But from a purely logical standpoint, I have decided to go with MJF and Adam Cole. And the reason why is because I don't think... I would find it weird if one of those guys got pinned when they're having a match later in the main event. Now, that could happen. It's possible, but I don't see why that would be a good idea. The only thing is that I guess it all depends on how they'd want to do it. Because, like, if they have the champion get pinned on the pre-show, that would be really strange. And then if they have Adam Cole get pinned on the pre-show, it then asks a lot of questions about what they're going to do in the main event of the show. But then at the same time, if they win the tag belts, how does that fact? It's a really interesting match that I just can't seem to wrap my head around. But I think ultimately I have gone with MJF and Adam Cole. I think we may actually see the moment where they win the tag belts, but then that plays into to what happens later in the night, and they'll win it with a double clothesline. I think that's when they'll get the big pop for that match, but then the actual juices of the story will happen in the main event. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I've got Aussie Opens to win. They're not winning the fucking belts at all. No way. No way they're winning the belts. I can't see them winning the belts at all. And I think because it's going to play into the fact that they are going to potentially turn each other very soon. Maybe not this show, but maybe they do. But I think it's happening very soon. Because, well, we'll discuss it later with the actual title match. But, yeah. I think this is going to play into the fact that they soon will be like properly splitting up at some point, because they've already set this kind of stuff up on Dynamite and parts of Collision the last 2 or 3 weeks. So yeah, I've gone with Aussie Opens. I would find it strange for them to suddenly win these tag belts, like the Ring of Honor tag titles, like so that
Now,
they are regularly going to be on Ring of Honor. I imagine then, if that's the case.
I'm just gonna go for a clarification here, because I think we do need to sort out this. Now, it is rare to see this in AEW. It's more of a WWE thing. However, if MJF and Adam Cole win by countout or disqualification, I think that means I still win that one, right? Because I've chosen them to win
if
the
whoever's
match.
the winner of the match specifically, it's not really. Yeah. We're not clarifying who has the belts by the end of the match. It's who wins the wrestling match.
Yeah.
In technicality.
If this was a WWE pay-per-view, I could pretty confidently say that's what I think is going to happen. But it's very rare to see DQ and countout in AEW. Number one, because the referees are absolutely useless and don't disqualify anything at all. And two, because I think Tony Khan he understands that fans like a definitive finish, even if it's screwy. I can't see the end of this match being clean if Aussie Open are winning, though. That's really unlikely.
What I think is going to happen, the way I think it's going to happen is there's going to be miscommunication between MGF and Adam Cole, and that's why one of them's going to get pinned. And it's honestly, I imagine it'll probably be MGF who gets pinned again.
Okay. Do you think?
I don't see them.
Do you think the Kingdom will get involved in this match?
It's possible. I think the way that I'm thinking they might go down is the fact that this is going to be the first time where they're not on the same page by the end of the match. That something's going to break down. They possibly do hit the double clothesline, but they either Cole or Max makes a mistake and then they miscommunicate, and then that causes them to lose the match.
And that's why I think
and I think that's and I think that's totally fine to do and have one of them be pinned, because logically we understand why that came to be. It's not a case of that one of them looking weak. It's just a case of it being for character reasons, and I think that's totally fine, and that's why I think Aussie Open are going to win. I just don't see a world of them actually winning tag titles.
I guess the main thing that this match needs to do is it needs to build anticipation for the actual main event.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. What I imagine they'll do they'll start off being like playfully banterish, but as the match goes, it'll be a bit more tense, and then when we get to the main event, it could be a completely different vibe, which I think would actually be quite interesting to watch.
I think what's unique about this. I think what's unique about this is that you would expect this match to happen on a Dynamite, like the Dynamite before the pay-per-view.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But because they're actually doing it on the same night, on the 0 hour, it's a really unique circumstance because they're doing it in the stadium. Yeah, very interesting.
There's a lot of potential with their narrative on this show.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Right then, well, we already have a difference here in terms of predictions.
Yeah, and again, it's for the winner of the match, not the tag title holders, I guess.
Yeah, of course.
Because if Adam Cole and MJF were to win by count out or DQ, you would get the point, but obviously they're not the champions.
Yeah. There's always
the only real realm of confusion. That's the only real realm of confusion that we would clarify on the review.
It's harder to talk about DQ and count out with AEW though, because it's so rare, but they could do it.
It hardly happened. That's why, I don't think it is going to be a count out or DQ. I think Aussie Open will beat them.
If it was
it's not going to be clean.
If it ended up being a no contest, then I guess neither of us would win.
Yeah, I guess it'd just be because that's a draw in a sense / no contest.
And it would probably get booed as well. It would get massively booed.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be silly that'd be your first match you do on Wembley. There's gonna be. I think there will be a winner.
that is a fucking Vince McMahon finish if I've ever heard of it. Is making a no contest. So shall we get on to the main card?
Yes.
So, I can't believe it. You are a lucky bastard. You're going to see this match. It is the rubber match in the trilogy of FTR versus the Young Bucks. Of course, their first match was at Full Gear 2020 during the pandemic, which the Young Bucks won and they beat them for the tag belts. And then on a Dynamite, I think it was early last year, 2022, they had a rematch and FTR won. So this is now the rubber match to see, quote unquote, who is the greatest tag team of all time for the AEW Tag Team Championships. And man, this is a really hard one because I feel like either team could win this. If this was WWE, I'd be more tempted to say the Bucks just because of what happened with Cash Wheeler this week. Because WWE are really, they love to punish people if they get in trouble. But I feel like whatever Tony Khan decided the result was going to be, you know, whenever he made this match, if he had decided it, I feel like he's just going to stick with it regardless. Because I don't think the arrest that Cash Wheeler had is enough to the point where they believe that it's going to have him get into more legal trouble. I think it was just a temporary minor offense that was, you know, dealt with. And I feel like it's all going to be fine now because it wasn't like a major legal, you know, fuck up. And if it was, they wouldn't even be in the match at all. But thankfully we are still going to get this match, which I'm sure is going to be an absolute classic. I almost feel like this is going to be one of like the last big performances from either of these teams, because I know that they're both winding down in their careers. Like I think both FTR and the Bucks re-signed this year, and they both said this is going to be like their last ever contract, at least full time, to a wrestling company. So this is definitely going to be them trying to push to their limits while they're still in their prime. And again, I feel like this could go either way, but I'm going to say FTR because I just have this. I think maybe with this one, I'm thinking more with my heart than my head. Because I do think that FTR are the better tag team, in my opinion. And I feel like because of that, there is reason enough to have them win. But at the same time, it's all elite wrestling. So there's also an argument for the Bucks to win as well. And also because of sort of the tradition of how 3-match structure goes, the team that wins the first one often will win the third one as well. So I don't know, and it's tough, really. But at the same time, I also want to say, if we're talking in-ring, you look at FTR's matches on Collision, they've been absolutely incredible, especially the ones they did with Bullet Club Gold. Whereas a lot of the recent Young Bucks matches haven't been on that level. So I feel like there is, in terms of like the match quality from recent time, I feel like there's reason to have FTR win. I'm just gonna stick with my gut and go FTR, but I feel like this one could really go either way. It's a tough call.
Yeah, I have gone for the Young Bucks to win this match. I think that was going to be the original choice anyway, before all the Cash Wheeler stuff happened this week. I just have a feeling that they're going to have a very good match, and the Bucks will win, and then they'll have a big old hug in the ring with drinking beer at the end or something like that, because it's going to be that kind of match where it's just an absolute masterclass wrestling match, tag match. And I think going forward, just the Bucks, because the Bucks, when did the Bucks win the tag titles? Like 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Well, they've won it twice.
It's been a while.
They've won it
twice.
So
they won it once in the pandemic.
So they had their main reign, which was when they beat FTR in 2020 and they lost it to the Lucha Brothers at All Out 2021. That was their main one. But then, in 2022, they had a transitional reign where they won it off, I think it was Jurassic Express, and then they lost it to Keith and Swerve.
Yes. Yeah. I remember. It just feels like this is probably FTR have had the belts for a couple months. They've had some really good matches with Bullet Club Gold on Collision. Yeah, I think it's the Bucks winning probably makes sense to me, I would say.
And this,
but I could see FTR winning as well.
And this is where I introduce our new thing that we have discussed that the viewers have never seen before, which is where we are going to spice up the predictions with a new thing we're adding now. And I did this based on the fact of, I noticed when we did Money in the Bank and SummerSlam, everything was very close. And so from here out, when we do predictions, I've introduced a new system where we are going to have two things that sort of add on top of our predictions to up the ante. And what that is each we get, one of them is called the Genesis and the other one is called the Androzani, which is sort of named after the channel, because GoAWrestling is Genesis of Androzani Wrestling, relative to the main channel. The Genesis that you choose is, if you get your prediction right, then you get 2 points instead of 1. And if you choose an Androzani, when your opponent makes a prediction, if they get it right, they only get half a point, and if they get it wrong, they get a negative point. And then if, say, one person chooses the match as their Genesis and the other person chooses it as the Androzani, the person who chose it as a Genesis will get 2 points if it's correct, but if they'll get negative 2 points if it's incorrect. So, I am choosing this match to be your Androzani. So if you're right, you only get half a point, and if you get it wrong, you get a negative 1 point.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's your Androzani.
Alrighty.
And that means if FTR win, I get 1 point and you get negative 1. That's a huge difference. Whereas if you win, if the Young Bucks win, you only get half a point's difference. That's pretty crazy. But that is the power of this new idea, which I think will add a really interesting layer to this. On top of the fact that so far we've predicted 2 matches and we've gone opposite anyway, so it's going to be really interesting to see how we end up. We could end up with massively polar opposite ends of the score by the end of this pay-per-view. But I think, again, this is what makes the AEW pay-per-view so unique, is that they are able to make the matches hard to really fully be sure who's going to win most of the matches. Quite good. But I think one prediction I think we both agree on is I think this match is going to be an all-time classic.
It's going to be awesome. Should be awesome.
Yeah. I've noticed the Young Bucks have been really, they've been reining it in their last few matches. They haven't been going for too much crazy shit, because I feel like they're going to save everything for this match. And that actually might play into the story, because FTR have been going hard defending the belts, and they might be more fatigued. It is possible that they also might have the Young Bucks win because it's the All In pay-per-view. And they were instrumental to the original All In. Let's get on to the Fatal 4-Way match for the Women's Championship. So, a bit like the first ever All In, which had a Fatal 4-Way match, which was a really unique match, actually, because that, like this match, also had Dr. Britt Baker in it, but if I remember correctly, it had Tessa Blanchard, who has since been cancelled. It had Chelsea Green, who is now in WWE, and I believe the fourth person, who was the fourth person? I can't remember. Madison Rayne, that's right. Very TNA heavy match there. But anyway, we also have a Fatal 4-Way match for the AEW Women's Championship. Now, unfortunately, as we said at the start, Jamie Hayter's not part of this match, which is a massive shame, because this would have been her match to win. But we do have another Brit. We have Saraya, who has not wrestled in the UK since her WWE days, which was a very long time ago now. So she's going to be in this match along with Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, who was in the first All In, so that's kind of significant for that. We also have Toni Storm, who ever since she lost the title has been on Collision doing promos, acting like a 1950s woman in a midlife crisis.
Monroe.
Like Marilyn Monroe.
No, she's basically Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
It's quite a funny gimmick.
Yeah, holding her pearls and abusing Lexi Nair. I love those promos. It's so funny. I feel like, honestly, this might be some of her best stuff she's done in AEW so far with these promos.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
I don't think it's even close.
Yeah. She's such a natural heel as well. It's weird because for all of her run in AEW before the Outcast, and for, I think it was all of her WWE run, she was a babyface. And we never really got to see this side of her.
Yeah.
But now we're getting this, and this is awesome. This is so good.
Yeah.
And I saw, I think it may have been on Fightful review. I think it's Cresta and Iridian Fiera do the Collision reviews. They were saying that they should at some point do a mixed tag match with Toni Storm and Juice Robinson together, because they're obviously a couple. I think those two would be hilarious. Because they're both so over the top. The Bang Bang Gang is here! Anyway, Toni Storm is in this match, and she's going to be wanting to get her belt back after losing it at Dynamite 200. And we have the champ, Hikaru Shida, after she had that 1 year long reign, which covered the entire pandemic period. From Double or Nothing 2020 to Double or Nothing 2021. Jamie Hayter was in this match. I would predict that she would be winning it. That would be so easy. But because she isn't, I think it actually makes this really difficult. And I tossed up a few options in my head. I at one point thought that Saraya was a possibility because of the hometown thing. But I also know that Saraya is a part-time wrestler. And I don't know if they'd want to have her be the champion as a part-time wrestler. Unless she had like a really short reign. Like, let's say she wins it and then she goes to All Out and then immediately loses it. That might be a bit pointless. Toni Storm just lost the belt. If she won it back, I wouldn't complain because her characters right now is great. But I also think maybe you want to continue this Marilyn Monroe character and not have her win it. I don't think Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, needs the belt. I think she's had her run, and I feel like personal feuds are her future that have nothing to do with championships. I would like to see Britt Baker go into actual feuds that are revolved around, we have a personal beef, we're cutting promos, we're having a match that has nothing to do with titles. So, I mean, the only exception would be if Jamie Hayter had the belt. I could see a great feud between those two happening because they're friends, and if they split up. Another feud that I would really like to see is if Jade Cargill comes back to AEW, I'd like to see her feud with Britt Baker because I feel like their promos could be really fire. But anyway, I have this might be a weird choice considering the occasion, but I have gone for Hikaru Shida to retain the belt, even though that's probably the most boring option. But I just think it makes sense, really. Even though Shida isn't really significant to this event specifically, I feel like she's basically just in the spot that Jamie Hayter was going to be in, and it was originally just going to be Outcast versus Hayter and Brett, like it was going to be two from each side in the Fatal 4-Way match. And because of Hayter's injury, they've replaced Hayter with Shida. And I think Hayter was going to retain at this show if she was still champ. Or if she hadn't been injured for as long as she was, I feel like she was going to beat Toni Storm and bring the belt back. So yeah, for that reason, I've gone with Shida. I think it just makes sense in my head that this is what Jamie Hayter would have been doing at this show, and I'd be surprised if they changed it, especially because Shida just won the belt.
Yeah. So for my part, I was really stuck between two. First off, I definitely don't think that Britt Baker is winning at all. I think she's probably the least likely to win this match because of all the criticisms the women's division's been having a lot more as of late, surrounded by like her matches. it'd be really tone deaf for her to win this match.
She's also said in like shoot interviews that she doesn't want the belt.
Yeah, it'd just be really tone deaf from the booking side of it. I also don't think Toni Storm's winning it, because I think they are going to continue with the Marilyn Monroe character going forward, because I think that's a really entertaining, fun gimmick for her, and she's pulling it off very, very, very well. So I was stuck between Shida and Saraya, and the likelihood is that it probably will be Shida who retains, but I've gone with Saraya for one of my like wildcard picks, really. I'm not confident on it, but in terms of predictions, I'm going to pick Saraya and gamble.
If Saraya was a full-time wrestler, I would have probably gone for her. But because she isn't...
my thinking is that they eventually have to put the belt on her at some point. It'd be weird if they didn't at some point. Even though I'm not really for it. I would just, from a company standpoint, I wouldn't expect them to not put it on her at some point during her run.
It'll be a shame, because that means Shida's a transitional champion. But having said that, if they do put the belt on Saraya, it would create an interesting story between her and Toni Storm, because Toni Storm is her whole reason for melting down is because she lost the belt. And also, if you remember, well, I mean, you probably haven't seen it, but on Collision today that we're recording this, Lexi now asked Toni Storm, are you and Saraya still going to be working together even though you're both in the same match? It is possible that we may see the Outcasts split as a result of this match, because Toni Storm is devastated to not have the belt. And if Saraya wins it, what is Toni Storm's reaction going to be? She's not just going to be supportive, is she? So there is a story there, for sure. I think there is actually more of a story if Saraya wins it than if Shida wins it. But, again, she's not a full-time wrestler, so it's just hard to believe it. But then again, neither is MJF. Until he turned babyface, obviously. But when he was heel, MJF wasn't a full-time wrestler either, and he was world champion, and he still is world champion. The next match is a feud that has been very, very recent. It started on the 199th episode of Dynamite. I mean, technically, it did start before that, but in terms of the key surprising figure that 2 months ago was wrestling mainly on Ring of Honor and Rampage, and that is the newly heel-turned AR Fox, who has joined the Mogul Embassy with Swerve Strickland against Darby Allin and Sting in a coffin match. So this is probably the most surprising. I mean, actually, that's not true, because the 0 hour match is more surprising than this. But when I saw this match advertised, I was like, holy shit, they really did set up this match within the matter of like weeks. Because AR Fox was teaming with Darius Martin and Action Andretti, and they were essentially either on Ring of Honor, Rampage, or they were enhancement talent on Collision or Dynamite. But then they filmed an angle. They did this whole 3-match link story on Dynamite 199, where they had AR Fox lose his match against Orange Cassidy and then start to get frustrated at Darby, who's a long friend of AR Fox, because Fox was, he was a trainer. He's trained lots of people. Did you know that AR Fox trained LA Knight how to wrestle?
Did not know that.
Yeah, he's been around a long time. And that frustration set in, which then led to AR Fox's heel turn and joining the Mogul Embassy, and then it also led to Swerve and Fox going to Nick Wayne's house, who's 18 years old, and beating him to a bloody pulp, which was absolutely insane. Of course, Nick Wayne is one of Darby Allin's close companions, friends. And of course, that brings out Sting, because Sting has to be on every big show. I don't think... I mean, I'm pretty certain that Sting is undefeated in AEW. I don't think he's lost a match so far, and I don't think he's going to lose this. I also would find it weird if he lost a coffin match. I do think Darby Allin and Sting are winning this, but I think there's possibility down the line that Swerve and AR Fox might get a win in another sense. I mean, actually, on the penultimate Dynamite to this show, they're doing a tag match, but instead of Sting, it's Nick Wayne, and I feel like Swerve and Fox might win that match, but then the babyfaces will get it back on the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, it makes sense to me for Darby and Sting to win this match. You know, biggest crowd in wrestling history, Wembley Stadium, one of Sting's probably last matches in his career, because we're probably getting very close to his retirement properly. He's going to get this big win. You know, it's going to be a very nice moment for him.
Yeah. And I have selected this match to be my Genesis, so if I'm right, I get 2 points. Because it's the result I'm the most confident on. I feel like there is almost... I would find it very surprising if Swerve and AR Fox beat Sting and Darby Allin. I feel like this is going to be a feel-good babyface win. You know, it's somewhat cliched, but I just feel like this is the match to do that. And my god, Darby Allin has been killing it lately. He's been in like 1,000 matches. It's fucking insane.
Yes.
He's in 2 feuds right now. He's in a feud with these guys on Dynamite and for this show, but then he's also in a feud with Christian Cage and Luchasaurus, which he's having a match at All Out for the week after, for the TNT title. It's unbelievable. And he's been wrestling matches on Rampage as well. He's just the MVP of the company in ring at the moment. But yeah, I selected this match to be my Genesis. I actually think it's really cool for AR Fox to get a big match on a show like this, given that how much he's given to the industry, how many guys he's trained who have become stars. It's really nice to see Tony Khan reward him with this match. And he's also a great talent too. He's a great wrestler, and his heel turn has really cemented him as someone to actually care about. You know, it's not that his matches weren't worth watching. They were always worth watching for in-ring reasons, but his babyface time with Top Flight is very just, hey, these guys are fun high flyers. Watch these fun guys do big moves. As opposed to now, where he's actually got a character and he's actually got a story, and it's intertwined with the whole Nick Wayne debut, which is really cool. That must be great for Nick Wayne too, like being an 18-year-old and being featured in this big story that has so much attention put on it. It's probably one of the things I would applaud Tony Khan for recently, is the amount of attention he's done for this story. And it's actually a Sting match that doesn't feel like it's just been thrown on the card at the last minute. This actually feels like it has a story behind it. Although, to be fair, story-wise, it is more of a Darby match for him, for the feud, but Sting just happens to be his friend that's helping him out. But it's going to be great for you to see a Sting match. What were the chances of that happening?
Yeah, I know. Fucking hell.
this guy debuted in, like, 1987.
Yeah, it's fucking insane.
Yep.
Bloody hell.
He was already considered a veteran before you were even born. That's actually crazy. Yeah. His entire run as Surfer Sting happened before I was born. We move on to the Golden Elite versus Bullet Club Gold, which is Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page, and Kota Ibushi versus Jay White, Juice Robinson, and Konosuke Takeshita. And I imagine Don Callis will play a big role in this match, potentially, although the other match on the card to do with him is probably more important for him. He may pull a Paul Heyman at WrestleMania 29 here, because Paul Heyman came out for CM Punk versus Undertaker, but he was also there for Brock versus Triple H as well. But yeah, I think this match, it's basically happened because Bryan Danielson got injured. And I imagine that it's possible that they may have originally were going to have like Hangman and the Dark Order versus Bullet Club Gold, and it was going to be, you know, like the gun club were going to be in it. That was my original thoughts, is that's what they're probably going to do, something like that. But despite that, they've decided to go with this, and I imagine either at All Out or Grand Slam we'll probably get a Kenny Omega versus Takeshita singles match, because I know that that's something that Kenny's always wanted to do, because they wrestled when Takeshita was a very young man in DDT Pro Wrestling, like back when he was like 19 years old. I think this match is going to be a really, really fun one. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of enjoyable spots and storytelling, especially given that Kenny Omega and Jay White were both members of the Bullet Club, and Jay White kicking Kenny Omega out of the Bullet Club was how he left New Japan and went to AEW. And and it's probably going to do a lot of setup with Takeshita as well, and obviously Ibushi and Takeshita, that's another thing. They were both in DDT Pro Wrestling. There's quite a few dynamics to enjoy here with this match. I think that the Golden Elite are going to win this. Number one, because Ibushi is a special guest. And I also think, because I feel like when they actually do Kenny versus Takeshita, I think Takeshita's going to beat him. I think Kenny is going to want to put that guy over. And also, having Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, or Kota Ibushi get pinned is... It's possible, but it's a hard sell. Whereas, on the other side, you got Juice Robinson, who is happy to always take a pin in any match. And that would protect Jay White and Konosuke Takeshita. So I think the Golden Elite are going to win this one. It could go either way, but that is my prediction.
I've gone with Bullet Club Gold.
Mm-hmm.
This one is a bit more difficult because I wasn't really sure. I think everything you said is very valid. I think that's very much possible, and it very much could happen. This one, I don't have an idea of who's gonna win. So I feel like the team that has like a lot of momentum right now is Bullet Club Gold, and to have someone like Jay White have, you know, be in the ring with Kenny Omega is quite the interesting prospect for me. And I could see Jay White pinning like Hangman. I weirdly could see that. I don't know why, but yeah, this one was a bit more difficult because I wasn't really sure which one to pick. So I've gone with the team with more momentum, I guess.
Yeah. I think there's, to play devil's advocate, there's a possibility that Kenny and Kota Ibushi's, you know, because they've obviously got their long history, the Golden Lovers. There's a possibility that emotional connection could sabotage them, and they could end up losing the match because of that, because it gets too personal. Whereas Takeshita, Jay White, and Juice Robinson will just do anything to win. So there's definitely a high possibility that Bullet Club Gold win as well. But again, this is what I love about this pay-per-view. There's so many matches that could go either way, and it makes sense why they could go either way. And it's full of possibilities. But yeah, I'm sure this match will be great fun. For the personalities alone, all 6 of these guys have so much in-ring charisma, and they have so much to just express to the audience, and also they're all incredible athletes on top of that. So I think this is going to be a party of a match for sure. But I also think they need to give Kenny a singles match at All Out with Takeshita. That's my take on it. Either that or with Jay White. Now, speaking of fun chaos with lots of people in it, we have the Stadium Stampede match, which is going to be 6-on-6, which is the Blackpool Combat Club versus the Best Friends. It's Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta versus three, not one, not two, but 3 mystery people versus Eddie Kingston, Trent Redder, Chuck Taylor, Orange Cassidy, Penta, and Phoenix. Fuck me. And it's in Wembley Stadium, which is absolutely huge.
Yeah, so they're gonna go all over the arena, I imagine.
how fucking long is this match gonna be?
There's gonna be like half an hour.
It honestly could be half an hour.
And this is the match where like Combat Club are gonna come out like from the sides, like from like the tunnels out the sides, and make their way through like the crowd at the pitch level, which is gonna be very funny and fun. And yeah, and they're gonna brawl all over the. I imagine they're gonna go into the arena itself. And
I would love it if Claudio Castagnoli came out with a football shirt.
Oh yes, that would be cool. Well, imagine they might do that actually. That's very possible. Because he did that sort of thing with Sheamus, like, you know, with their gimmick, because they're both European and Sheamus is very big into football.
Something I would love for this match to set up is a singles match between Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston.
I imagine that might happen.
Maybe All Out Grand Slam.
In the future.
I feel like it's.
Oh yeah, possibly.
Maybe, because I feel like they also got to do Jon Moxley versus Orange Cassidy for the title as well.
Yes.
I think it's highly possible that Moxley is the person to beat Cassidy for that belt.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think there's definitely sooner rather than later. I imagine he is going to lose the belt, and it probably will be to Moxley. At the very least, he seems the most likely at this current time. But
imagine if they had Moxley win it, but then they have Kingston win it off Moxley. The other thing is no one seems to know who the mystery people are. Everyone has a completely different prediction of who it's going to be. There's a lot of possibilities. Something I've heard that would actually make really good sense in storyline is if two of them are Santana and Ortiz. Because the last time I believe Ortiz appeared on AEW, he got beat the shit out of by Eddie Kingston. And it's possible that they may want revenge on him. The only thing with that, though, is that the real life beef between them has to be settled before that can happen. But as a return, it would be great. I'm sure it would get a huge pop, and for storyline reasons, I can just imagine the look on Eddie Kingston's face if he saw those two on the other side of him. Some people have pitched many options. I've heard some people say, imagine the pop if it was Nigel McGuinness. If he came out of retirement to be in this match. And he would fit the Blackpool Combat Club, wouldn't he?
Oh yeah, he would.
Yeah. And as a replacement for Bryan Danielson as well. Yeah, that's possible. There's also there are other people it could be as well. Like there's other people, like, because remember, I think it was Shota Umino was with Blackpool Combat Club at Forbidden Door or something like that. There was a whole combination of people that they could be teaming with. I mean, originally people were speculating maybe Pac would be on the other side, but it's, yeah, who knows at this point. But I honestly don't know who it's going to be, and that's actually quite exciting. It's not predictable. I
imagine they'll announce it either be they'll announce it on Dynamite or as the match is about to start. So more likely Dynamite.
It's possible they might announce two on Dynamite and then have the last one be a surprise for the actual show itself.
Possibly.
Yeah. I would say it is unlikely for the team that has mystery people in it to lose, which is why I've gone with the Blackpool Combat Club.
I also have gone for Blackpool Combat Club. I think because they lost at Blood and Guts. They lost. Did they lose at Forbidden Door?
No.
Or did they win?
No, I'm pretty sure they won.
They won at Forbidden Door. Let me just double check. But yeah, but they lost. They definitely also.
They definitely won at Double or Nothing against the Elite. I remember that. It was Wheeler Yuta pinned Kenny Omega at Double or Nothing in the Anarchy in the Arena match. That was when Takeshita turned heel.
No, Combat Club lost that match at Forbidden Door.
Okay.
So they haven't won in 2 pay-per-views. So it feels like they're due a win.
Oh yeah, no, wasn't that the match where like Ishii pinned Wheeler Yuta or something? Yeah, so they're due a win for sure.
They are due a win.
Bryan Danielson also lost to Okada as well. Oh no, he beat him. He beat him, didn't he?
Yeah.
I completely forgot about that. He beat him with like an armbar or something. It was crazy.
He did, yes.
He made the Rainmaker tap out. But yeah, I think the Blackpool Combat Club will win this. I think it'll lead to Moxley versus Cassidy.
I imagine so.
Yeah, and you know, like, as much as I do like the guys on the Best Friends team, they're not like booked as strongly as the Blackpool Combat Club are. You know, Trent Beretta, Chuck Taylor, Pentagon, and Phoenix. Like they do win matches, but not as much. And again, there's 3 mystery people in it, so unlikely for the mystery people to lose the match, I'd say. Now we move on to the match, which I think out of all of them has actually had the worst build to it, but it could still be a great match, and that's Will Ospreay versus Chris Jericho. I think this Chris Jericho-Don Callis feud has been really messy, and especially the last segment on Dynamite was weird and did not make sense. With like the whole painting thing, and it's fucking strange. However, it is Will Ospreay, and he is one of, if not the best in-ring talents in the world right now.
UK's own.
And if anyone can pull another late in the game classic out of Jericho, it's this guy. And it's in Wembley Stadium in London. So I think it's a given that Will Ospreay's going to win this. I would be very shocked if Jericho wins this match, because I feel like, number one, it's in the UK, Will Ospreay's the hometown guy, and also he is most likely going to be facing Kenny at Wrestle Kingdom, and if he loses to Jericho, it would take away his credibility. And he has just beaten Kenny at Forbidden Door as well, and he's one of New Japan's top guys. For New Japan to send him all the way over there to AEW to lose to Jericho, I think would be a weird decision. It could happen, but I don't think it should happen. Especially because Don Callis is involved as well. I mean, I guess the only potential world where I could see Jericho winning is if Sammy Guevara somehow gets involved and screws over Will Ospreay. But I still think Ospreay's gonna win. I just can't bring myself to choose Jericho for this match. It just doesn't. The thought of him winning in Wembley against Will Ospreay it just doesn't sit right with me. It just feels weird. So I've gone with Ospreay.
I have gone with Jericho winning this match. Because I have a very strange feeling that he is going to win this match, because he hasn't won a big match in so long, I feels like. Because he has been on a downward spiral in terms of loss after loss after loss. And it feels like they want to give him one big win at some point. And I feel like this is the one they're gonna do. And it's probably gonna be the one that he definitely should lose.
Yeah. Oh man, the boos. It's weird because they're trying to turn him. They're trying to turn him babyface, but he would get fucking booed if he wins this match. He would get massively booed.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look at his recent record.
Well, I know he beat Bryan Danielson at last year's All Out, which was a year ago. He did have a big winning run when he was ROH champion, because he beat Claudio, and the Jericho Appreciation Society also beat Blackpool Combat Club at Double or Nothing last year.
Jericho has lost 8 matches this year alone, and has won 7.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. He lost to bloody Action Andretti, didn't he? I forgot about that.
Action Andretti, Ricky Starks twice.
Yeah, he lost to Adam Cole in that really, really weird, dodgy match, and he
lost to Cole.
And he lost in that tag team match too, with Baker and...
Yeah, like he hasn't won a big match this year so far. Last time he won a big match was when he was ROH World Champion back at Full Gear. In a match where he beat Bryan Danielson, Claudio, and Sammy Guevara. See, his last like sort of big pay-per-view win was at Full Gear nearly a year ago.
Mm.
And I feel like they're gonna have him, win this match.
Please no.
It's very possible that Will does win, I will say. But this feels like a match that, if they're going to do a misbooking, this is the match they're going to do, and they're going to give Jericho a big win.
No, thank you.
On, the biggest show in wrestling history. He hasn't won in a pay-per-view match since he was ROH World Champion. He lost to Ricky Starks, he lost to Adam Cole. He lost obviously to Action Andrade early in the year in a really humiliating loss. This feels like if they're going to give Jericho a win back, this is the match they're going to do.
Oh, God. Why? It's possible, but I don't want that to happen. Let's move on from that match. Right, so now we have the match for the real World's Championship between CM Punk and Samoa Joe. So obviously Punk beat Joe for the first time in the Owen Hart tournament. He rolled him up. In all of their ROH matches, Joe won. Or there was a time limit draw. I feel like, because this is for the title, I'm going to say CM Punk's going to win. Because I just can't see Samoa Joe being the real world's champion. It wouldn't fit the story. It would be really strange, and I don't think it fits the story they're trying to tell with that belt. If this was a non-title match, I could see Joe winning it. But I don't. I mean, it's a strange thing, right? Because Ricky Starks has a manager's license. So you'd think that he's going to be Samoa Joe's manager. But I don't know. I mean, it's possible he might be, and they might bring out Ricky the Dragon Steamboat to get revenge on Ricky Starks. But I just can't see Samoa Joe being the real world's champion. It just doesn't make sense to me in terms of the story they're telling. It would just be weird. So that's why I've gone with CM Punk.
I've also gone for CM Punk. And this is my Genesis pick.
Mm-hmm.
This feels really, very easy. This is probably the easiest pick of the lot for me. And because I said that, Joe is probably going to win.
Well, it'd be so strange if he's holding up a fake AEW World title and he's holding up the Ring of Honor television title.
Yeah, Punk is going to win this match. He's because it's
just
this feels it feels like it would be very weird to drop the belt off him now before doing the whole title unification thing with probably MJF/Cole.
Especially because it's not even a legit belt. It's a fake AEW World title that was based on a win he had when he got injured. It's like, it's not even the actual title. So there'd be no... Why would Samoa Joe having this belt, why would that matter? It would just be such a strange choice if they had Joe win it. Actually, to be fair, there's like a 1% chance. What they could do, and this is really dumb, it's something that WWE would do, especially if Vince was booking it, but they could have Joe win and then they could have CM Punk win it back in Chicago the next week. That is possible, but I don't think that's going to happen. I feel like they're going to have Joe lose, and then in Chicago they're going to have Ricky Starks challenge for the belt, or maybe Grand Slam, but I'm not sure. But yeah, we're both going with CM Punk, and that's your Genesis pick,
Yes.
so that means you will get 2 points if you get that right.
Yes, which is
All
why I
right.
picked him.
Which brings us to our main event for the AEW World Championship. Oh my god. Oh. This was hard. This was hard to choose. It's really hard to choose this because we haven't seen the full build-up yet. Because we actually have a match with these two guys on the same show that will change the way this going into this match is, if you know what I mean. Like, it's hard to think about it's gonna be like going into this match, because we don't know what's gonna happen at the start of the show yet, which is a really unique circumstance. This might be foolish of me, but I'm going with Adam Cole, which is a really ballsy decision. But I believe that Adam Cole is going to turn heel on MJF, and he's going to reform the Kingdom and win the belt. And I feel like MJF will probably win it back near the end of the year. That's my prediction. I also think that it's quite possible we may see a CM Punk Adam Cole match at some point after he wins the belt. There's a lot of possibilities. It is a really, really, really ballsy take to say the world title is going to change at this show. But I just have this inkling because of what's been going on with Roddy Strong and the Kingdom. It could also go the other way as well. It could end up being the Kingdom screws over Adam Cole, and then he enters a feud with Roddy Strong. But I just have this inkling. I just had this inkling that Adam Cole's going to turn on MJF at this show, and he's going to win the belt. And it's going to turn into an actual breakup feud. But I don't know. I really don't know. There's a very, very big argument for MJF winning as well. This is one of the most interesting builds I think I've ever seen to a match. Ever. Because you got two guys who at the start of the feud were at each other, had that 30-minute time limit draw, where Cole was going to win clean. Then they ended up forming a tag team where they were both considering turning on each other and using each other. And then they ended up actually becoming best friends, but there's still insecurities, especially from MJF bubbling under the surface. And they're going into the show as close friends with little hints of both of them, really. Because there's that moment where Adam Cole hugs MJF, and then he does the same thing he did to Kyle O'Reilly at NXT, where it's like he's stabbing him in the shoulder, which is in NXT when he did that was right before he turned on him. But then you've also got MJF when Cole was slightly turned away, he was like adjusting his diamond ring on his finger. So I feel like there is something that's going to break them up at this show, and it's going to be really heartbreaking. And I imagine it's possible that there's a really good reason why Tony Khan has booked 2 matches with these two to tell a full story throughout the show. Regardless of the result, I cannot wait to see this match, though. I think this is going to genuinely be incredible. Like, incredible story told between these two, because this has been... I mean, as much as Collision has been overall the most consistent show, in terms of just the singular storylines, this has been my favorite AEW storyline this year, I think. The MJF Adam Cole stuff. It's been so good. And yeah, I cannot wait to see what they do with this match, regardless of whether I'm right or not about the result. But I just had this gut feeling that Adam Cole's going to turn... I had this gut feeling that this feud has been a one big double turn, where Cole has come in as the babyface and MJF as the heel, and I think by the end of it, they're going to switch. And MJF is going to end up being the babyface out of this feud and Cole the heel. But I could be completely wrong about it as well. They could revert back to where they were. Who even knows at this point? Oh, there's so many possibilities. But for this feud, which has been so well built, between two of my favorite wrestlers in the world right now, MJF and Adam Cole, with one of the best storylines I think they've ever done in this company, for the main event of the biggest wrestling show of all time, I think it's a great choice. And if Adam Cole wins, that's going to be absolutely incredible for his career, but it would also be the same for MJF as well. I just fucking loved the promo they did and how it echoed the Rock and Stone Cold promo before WrestleMania 17, because I think it was Adam Cole that did the Stone Cold line of, "I need to win this more than you could ever imagine," or something like that. And I just feel like, because there's just this gut feeling that Adam Cole is the Stone Cold in this situation and he's turning heel, Because I feel like Tony Khan in his head is going, this is going to be AEW's WrestleMania X7, in a way. Except MJF's not going to go off to Hollywood right after like The Rock did to do the Scorpion King. But yeah, I think they're going to do a massive shocker, and I think Adam Cole's going to be the champion at the end of the show, and MJF is going to be the number one babyface in AEW coming out of All In. And it will just... The interest in seeing Dynamite on Wednesday after the show, if they do that, would be absolutely insane. So yeah. I'm not saying that my choice is likely, but I'm hoping that I can manifest it into existence. But regardless, I think it's going to be a great match, and I can't wait to see what they do with it.
Yes, I have gone for MJF.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, yeah, I don't see them taking the belt off him just yet. I feel like they'll probably wait just a bit longer. I don't think he's losing a belt until at the very least near the end of the year. I still think they're going to stick with that plan. But they could very much still have Cole turn heel. And I think Cole is going to be the one to turn heel. I don't think Max is, because I think that plays into the fact of his story a lot better, and how they've sort of built up this sort of relationship between the two. It makes more sense for me narratively and more satisfying if Cole's the one to turn, rather than it be Max. I think they'll do something like a Revolution where it looks like Cole's about to turn on Max, but they do like a big old hug and celebration, like they did at Wembley Stadium at SummerSlam between British Bulldog and Bret Hart, something like that, which is very possible. But then, not long after, maybe a few weeks from now, or so, in the build up to maybe the next pay-per-view after All Out, they have Cole turn on Max.
Or they could do it at the Grand Slam show.
Yeah. Could do that. Yeah, they very much could. But I think the winner of the match itself will be MJF. And this... yeah. This could be a very, 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 very narratively satisfying match. Very emotional match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think there's so many great possibilities with this match. Like, I cannot wait to see it. You are going to get to watch this live in person. That's actually ridiculous. But again, this is why it's so unique, because we have that tag match on the 0 hour. So, you're predicting that MJF is going to get pinned on the 0 hour, but then win the main event.
Yes. I do think that's going to be something that happens.
So, the moral of the story is that he sucks at tag team matches. Because, and this is why, because he can't have any friends.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's that, like I said, there's going to be miscommunication in that match, and it's going to play into the drama of this match. But ultimately, MJF is going to come through and win the match.
Yeah, because I remember,
and that plays into the fact that he is slowly but surely playing into this more babyface persona of fighting through it. That's the sort of thing they've done with him in this whole story, turning him into this sort of like scumbag babyface that actually works. I feel that they very much could have in the main event it be like Cole was more heelish, playing to the fact that he's doing anything it takes to win the match despite being friends, and Max fighting back. That is how I feel like to get the crowd on side, because Max is going to be absolutely so incredibly over in this match.
Oh yeah, he has proven that he actually can be a great babyface, and they've teased it throughout the entire of AEW. They have teased his babyface stuff, and they've never given it to you until now. Even going all the way back to the first Dynamite, he was technically babyface, but he was, you know, pretending to be babyface because he was on Cody's side. But back then, he was doing the catchphrases and all that, but he was on Cody's side, and then he turned on him at Full Gear. And obviously, probably the biggest example is when he was feuding with CM Punk, and he finally came out with the personal promos about his childhood. And ever since then, we've got these little glimpses into his real side. And they've peeled back the layers, and it's eventually, especially with this feud, we've seen MJF actually manifest into a babyface, not just on the serious personal level, but even on the more comedic level. Like when he cut that promo on Roderick Strong, it was actually really funny. He's just like, you do what white people do, you go to your mom's house, walk up the stairs, close the door, lie in bed, put your head on the pillow, listen to some Taylor Swift, and shake it off, baby. And he's saying it because Roderick Strong is genuinely being a jealous, like actually jealous, actually really toxic, because he's massive crybaby because Adam Cole's not going to give any attention, and he's wearing the neck brace for like longer than he should have ever done, like past its expiry date. It's so funny because people say that, like, would always say that Roddy Strong is like a really bland wrestler, that he doesn't have any character, but he has shown in this storyline that he's actually really funny. And he showed it in the Undisputed Era anyway, because he was great in that too, but I love the comedy they've done with Roddy Strong here. Like on Dynamite when he kicked that car and he hurt his foot. And I just love the whole drama behind it, where he's crying because Adam Cole's not hanging out with him anymore. And then he goes into the shoulders of Mike Bennett and Matt Taven. They're like, there, Roddy, there. We know that you're not wrong. You're right. It's gonna be okay. And I kind of like how the facade of this whole storyline has been built around like all the characters are acting like kids. But there's actually like some really devious adults under that childish facade. Like all the that fucking video package of MJF and Adam Cole being like, oh yeah mate, we're gonna go get them with a kangaroo kick. You know, it's just so childish. But it's because it's kind of like have you ever heard the theory of like when people fall in love they turn into babies again and they have to start over? And then they grow.
No, I've never heard that.
Well, it's an analogy used because when people first get together, when they start dating and they get together, they turn into like babies. That's why the honeymoon phase is so goo goo gaga. And then as a relationship grows, you grow as people within the relationship and you become adults like eventually. And so what they've kind of done here is Adam Cole and MJF discovering their new friendship. They're acting like kids. They're like just acting completely childish, because they're in this honeymoon phase of their friendship. And Roderick Strong, being the jealous baby, is also acting like a kid too, needing to be consoled by his caregivers. But it's in the moments when that friendship is tested that the actual really like insecure adults come out. Like when you see MJF teasing that he's not happy with what's happening with Adam Cole, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing? And that's when the characters that we know come out, the heel characters that we know. It's so good. It just feels like anytime MJF has a big storyline, there's just so much attention to detail put into it. Did you see that video from Dynamite where they get called into Tony Khan's office after they double clotheslined a camera guy?
Yeah, I did watch that. Yeah, I did.
And it was like a parody of how everyone says, oh, Tony Khan's not a boss, he doesn't actually discipline his roster. And so they go behind closed doors and Tony Khan's like, you guys can't be running around backstage double clotheslining anyone while people are trying to work. And then they compliment him and he's just like, oh, thanks guys, thanks for what you're doing. And he's wearing like the same sunglasses he wore when he cut that promo on Nick Khan and Impact.
Yeah.
God, it's so funny. But yeah. This is probably the most hyped I've been for a AEW match in quite a long time. In terms of story, like obviously in ring wise, it's different. Like FTR versus Jay White and Juice Robinson was just fucking absolutely off the wall. And like the Fatal 4-Way at Double or Nothing as well. But in terms of like story specifically, like the feud itself between the characters, this is probably the most hyped I've been for an AEW match in quite some time.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Really looking forward to it. I think this has the potential to be one of the best pay-per-views of the year. Even though you got all those people online saying it's a lackluster build and a lackluster card, I disagree. Because I think, again, much like Collision today, don't judge a book by its cover. I genuinely believe, even though it would have been better if it had Bryan Danielson and Jamie Hayter and Pac on the card, but I still think even without them there, I still think they're going to pull off something really good. One thing, though, I do hope they do is I hope that they use the show to set up All Out. Because that pay-per-view is also important as well. You know, they have already set up 2 matches. They've set up Darby Allin vs. Luchasaurus, and they've set up Miro vs. Powerhouse Hobbs, which is great for the undercard. But I do hope that this show helps to set up All Out, and we get another great show the next week, because I think it's important for them not to you know, shortchange the Chicago fans, because the Chicago fans are really loyal. And let's hope that this year's All Out doesn't have the same controversies as last year's, because last year's All Out ended in a disaster with Brawl Out. Anyway, that's for next week's predictions. Yeah. You're gonna get to go to All In. I can't believe it. It's just crazy. You're gonna be in the biggest ticket sold crowd of wrestling of all time.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah. The only wrestling crowd that was bigger was Collision in Korea, which had like 300,000 people, but that's because it was North Korea, and the government said if you don't go to the show, you'll be shot. You must watch Ric Flair vs. Antonio Inoki, otherwise you are breaking the law. But in terms of an actual consenting to watching the wrestling by paying money to go see it, this is the biggest ever. Apparently people reckon this is going to be like a $9 million gate, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Crazy.
$9 million. Oh, unbelievable. So yeah. Oh, you need to choose an Androzani match for me.
I do. I'm stuck between 2. The one I'm probably going to go for is the Golden Elite Bullet Club Gold match.
Okay. All right then.
Yeah, because that one I feel like could go either way.
All right. So I guess as I'm watching the show, I'll have to keep score, because it's going to get quite complicated.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of different picks on this one.
Yes. Now, between now and the show, because obviously this video is going to come out, and we've still got, you know, just over a week before the show. If they announce any more 0-hour matches between now and then, we'll just say what our predictions are when we direct message each other, and we'll address it when we get to the review. We'll just say what they were. We'll just say in the review what our predictions were, and we'll include it as part of the score. I doubt it'll make too much of a big difference, but that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, I'm just very fucking excited for it. The whole show. I'm excited to go there, get the feel of the crowd, and just watch some really good bloody wrestling in front of 80,000 people.
I imagine you'll probably lose your voice again.
Most likely, yes.
Which match do you think is going to be match of the night?
I feel like the easy bet would be FTR Young Bucks.
Mm.
I think for most compelling, I'd say MGF Adam Cole.
Yeah.
Because the crowd's going to be hot for that. Hopefully. Hopefully they're not tired.
Yeah. Depending on who the surprise entrants are, there's an outside chance that Stadium Stampede steals the show. Because those matches, when done right, are absolutely insane. And I wouldn't count out Golden Elite versus Bullet Club Gold either. As Will Ospreay has described before, Kenny Omega, when it comes to building matches, is like a mad scientist. And he's just able to come up with so many creative ideas. But yeah, it's probably going to either be Young Bucks FTR or the main event. I can't believe I'm saying this. This is actually insane. CM Punk versus Samoa Joe is probably going to be one of the weakest matches on the card. That is ridiculous. I could be wrong about that, though. But it's possible that CM Punk versus Samoa Joe of all matches could actually end up being, like, in the bottom half. Insane. I'd say the only... of the matches, the one that I'm probably worried about the most is Jericho versus Will Ospreay. Not for in-ring reasons, because Will Ospreay is amazing, but I am concerned about the story. And in terms of in-ring, I guess maybe either the women's match or the Sting match. There's a few, if not booked correctly, they could be a bit messy. But, you know. Regardless, I predict this will be a banger of a show. And, I think WWE's going to have a hard time following it up with Payback the next weekend. I even think AEW's going to have a hard time following it up with All Out. It's going to be a... But regardless, for the fans, it's just one giant wrestling sandwich over the course of 7 days. Because if you think about it, you've got... If you start watching on All In on the Sunday, is it a Sunday? Yeah, it's Sunday, right?
Yes.
Well, you've got a taped Collision before that, but regardless, if we're talking like live wrestling, you've got All In on the Sunday, and then the next day you've got Raw, and then 2 days up, well, technically NXT, but don't count that. You got Raw on the Monday, then 2 days after that you got Dynamite, and then after that, 2 days after that you got SmackDown, and then the day after that you got Collision and Payback, and then the day after that you got All Out, and then you got Raw the night after that too. It's fucking insane. So much wrestling. And not only will this be coming up the 1 year anniversary of Brawl Out, but it's also going to be the 1 year anniversary of Clash at the Castle. Can you believe that was a year ago?
No, that was crazy.
Clash at the Castle was like a year ago.
Nearly, yeah, pretty much.
I remember that show's like it was yesterday.
Yeah, same.
And can you believe that Sami Zayn getting kicked out of the Bloodline was like 7 months ago?
Yeah, that's fucking crazy. Bloody hell.
This year's gone fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway. Woo. We will see you all next time. I'm not 100% sure what the next video is going to be. It's either going to be the Payback predictions or it's going to be the All In review. It's one of those two. It just depends on how we schedule it. But it'll be one of those two options. I imagine it's possible it might end up being the All In review because WWE hasn't announced much for Payback yet, and it's possible what we might do is we might do the All In review, and then later in that week we may end up doing the Payback and the All Out predictions on the same day, because the prediction videos are a lot shorter than the reviews.
Yeah.
So that is a possibility.
Possibility.
Yeah. And then after that will be the Payback review and the All Out review, and once we've done with that, we'll be fucking exhausted. But then after that will be in September, which is when I can start planning for. Usually, it's when I start planning for the Advent calendar. Woo woo woo! So that should be interesting. And yeah, lots of good stuff to look forward to. Hope you'll enjoy it. And fingers crossed, All In is the show that we all hope it's going to be. Because, my God, what a moment in history. We'll see you all next time. Bye bye.